Please be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Les Hall, the Dean of the School of Medicine. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2014 MU School of Medicine commencement ceremony. This is a celebratory event, and we want you to enjoy it. It's about you and someone you love who is about to become a physician. The faculty and I are just here to help you celebrate this tremendous achievement. We will now hear from Chase Ellingsworth, who has been chosen by his classmates to offer a student welcome. Peer selection has always seemed to me the most special kind of honor, so please help me in welcoming Chase to the podium.
All right, well, I get to kick things off. First off, I'd like to welcome and thank all the family and friends who are here to share in celebrating this special day. I am truly honored and grateful to have the opportunity to speak before all of you. I want to be one of the first to congratulate all of my fellow classmates in reaching this milestone. Congrats, guys. This is what it feels like to graduate from the 20th grade. If only our kindergarten teachers could see us now, 2 full decades later, still in school. Well, of the 3 students speaking today, we will be addressing our past, our present, and our future as physicians. And I have been charged with the task of reminiscing on our past. And in reflecting, the past 4 years has produced a wide range of emotions, from the joys of match day to the trials of step 1. Together we have shared in many life-changing events, including several of our classmates getting married, as well as a few more brave classmates, probably better termed crazy, actually had children during medical school. I can say that because my wife Megan and I actually had a child during medical school, and we are the proud parents of a 6-month-old baby boy, Owen. And actually, I apologize if there's any spit up still on my gown this morning. I tried to get it off, but you know how things go. But regardless of the event, we were all there to share in the experiences together as a class. However, even before our 4 years began, I know we all remember receiving our acceptance letter to medical school and being filled with such excitement and enthusiasm. We were on our way to becoming a doctor, and we knew we were going to change the world. At that time, we knew very little of the struggles that lied ahead, but that did not faze us. We were focused on our ultimate goals of treating the underserved and caring for patients. We were selfless and eager to serve, and these were the motivations that we had for becoming a physician, and nothing could take that away. As that final summer before medical school came to an end, we all anxiously awaited our orientation. There we would meet several new faces, some of whom we would work together in PBL groups or even in the hospital, while others we would become the best of friends. Several of us would even be introduced to their future and now current spouses. Shortly after, our time as a medical student commenced. Lectures began and our patients' cases were presented, and we suddenly became overwhelmed by the amount of information and the uncertainty of what we needed to study. 8 weeks quickly passed, and the dread of our first medical school test week was upon us. That excitement and enthusiasm that we had before medical school was now a distant memory, one replaced with panic and anxiety. But somehow we all found a way to survive. As we navigated our first year, we learned to adapt, and we soon became more comfortable with the system. During that year, we were reacquainted with our dear friend, the Krebs cycle. We teased out the many tracks of the nervous system, and we fell in love with histology from Dr. Krause and all of his many holiday photos of possums, of course. Each week, we look forward to changing back into our anatomy scrubs, which always carried the sweet scent of perseverance with just a hint of formaldehyde. We thrived in learning to take a history and physical, as well as the more advanced skill of asking cage questions. Our first year was filled with everything from biochemistry to epidemiology. Then came the much-needed break of summer, which would unfortunately be the final summer break of our lives. We were free one final time to revel in the summer sun without any responsibility. Some of us chose to do research, others worked in a hospital, while the more sensible of us actually did nothing academic, and simply enjoyed the bliss of 3 warm summer months. Unfortunately, as all good things in life come to an end, school was back in session. This time, we arrived with a newfound confidence, knowing that we were no longer the rookies. There was now a fresh bunch of M1s below us. Our second year, we were introduced to the wonderful Dr. Havey and the riveting new world of pathology. We learned to interpret radiographic images, and we experienced our first opportunity to practice real procedures, luckily on mannequins. Life was good as we were learning clinical knowledge and starting to do doctor things. However, the new year also brought with it the cruel reality of step 1, our first board exam. Our new best friend became our first aid books, and our favorite activity was practicing UWorld questions. This period in our journey can also be referred to as the Great Hibernation, as we would emerge from our studies solely for mandatory PBL sessions, coffee refills, and the occasional bathroom break. Step 1 often tested our will, but the day we completed our test was ever so gratifying. It was a tremendous achievement, and we were now free to re-enter society and catch up on all that had happened in those several months before. Our triumph was brief, as we were quickly welcomed into the world of working in the hospital. This was the moment that we had waited for since planning to become a doctor. We would finally get to see real patients and work with real physicians. And during our third-year clerkships, we got to do just that and experience a little bit of every specialty. On OBGYN, we learned about women's health and assisted in delivering babies. On surgery, we were introduced to the delightful Jen Doty and able to hone our skills on how to properly retract instruments. On internal medicine, we learned about caring for patients in the hospital, both at the university and at the VA. On pediatrics, we learned that kids often don't like coming to the doctor and certainly don't like needles, but whenever they smiled and laughed, it made every day better. On psychiatry, we learned how to care for the mind, and as the schedule would have it, became reacquainted with something we had all since forgotten, that of our friend's sleep. Finally, on family medicine, we learned how to take bits and pieces of each of the other rotations and apply that knowledge. Our third year helped clarify whether we liked being in the clinic or in the hospital or even in the operating room. It showed us whether we liked talking with patients and spending time with them, or if we would rather work in, say, a dark room or care for patients who are unconscious and can't talk back to us. The third year was used to help springboard into our fourth year as we arranged away rotations, filled out applications, and set off into the unknown on the interview trail. The past 4 years have been an incredible journey, and we have all accomplished a great deal. But it is important to remind ourselves that the journey that has brought us to this momentous day did not simply begin 4 years ago. Rather, there have been numerous individuals during our years of education that have been invested in all of our lives, from teachers to mentors to professors and even physicians. Each has given their time and effort to guide and encourage us along the way, and is more than deserving of recognition today. In fact, the main reason many of us are sitting here today is because of the inspiration that came from some of those very people. Yet, even before our education began and outside of academics, we have been so loved and cared by so many people who have had such an invaluable impact on all of our lives, including our spouses, parents, siblings, relatives, and many other loved ones. These are the individuals who have been behind the scenes, from our parents who have ensured that we were clothed and fed, that we made it to school and all of our extracurricular activities, and who always showed us unconditional love. To our spouses and significant others who have supported our decisions along the way, who have been our strength and our joy away from medicine, and for always being understanding when our schedules are frustrating at best. To our siblings, friends, and loved ones who have always been there to encourage us in the pursuit of our dreams. Each of these people has sacrificed much for our benefit in ways that we could never repay, and for all of those sacrifices, we are forever grateful. So today, when we walk across this stage to receive our diplomas and the title of physician, we do so knowing that we could never have achieved this without the dedication and support of all of those individuals, and to them, we say thank you and we love you. And I will leave you with one final thought. Never forget your motivations for becoming a physician. Be humble and always thank your loved ones. Thank you guys and congratulations.
Thank you, Chase. Today marks a very special accomplishment, and you all have a great deal to be proud of. However, as Chase has said, you didn't make it to this point alone. Many of you would not even be here if it were not for the love, support, cheerleading, and even money of others, some of whom are here today, and we want to take a moment to thank them. Today's joys, tears, and feelings of fulfillment are to be shared. They don't belong exclusively to you as the graduates. So class of 2014, I would like to ask you to stand and turn around and face your family and friends. We want to take a moment to acknowledge those whose love, care, and all manner of support are instrumental in getting you to this point in your career. So I want to ask now the parents, spouses, and partners of today's graduates to please stand, and let's recognize their contributions. And now we want to ask the grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, children, or other relatives of graduates to also stand. Thank you so much. Please be seated. There's another large group of people also deserving the gratitude of our graduates, because without them, no degrees would be awarded today, and they are seated behind me. I'd like to ask the emeritus professors, the faculty, the administration of the School of Medicine, and representatives of University of Missouri Healthcare to please stand. We're privileged to have many special guests with us today, and I'd like to introduce some of those who have joined us on the platform today. I'm going to read a series of names here. I'll reserve one name that's going to be the next speaker until the end. First, I'd like to recognize Dr. Hal Williamson, the Executive Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs. And please stand as I read your name. Ken Dean, the Interim Provost of the University of Missouri in Columbia. Michael Middleton, the Deputy Chancellor of the University of Missouri in Columbia. Ann Covington, who is a curator of the University of Missouri Board of Curators. Representative Caleb Rowden, who represents District 44 in the Missouri State House of Representatives. Dr. Wes Stricker, representing the Medical School Foundation. Dr. William Hines, who is an alumnus of our School of Medicine. In fact, he graduated 30 years ago this month. He was saying this is an important anniversary, and a philanthropist for our school. Dr. Richard Holt, also an alumnus of the School of Medicine, class of 1970, and a philanthropist. And Dr. John Duff, Vice President of Medical Affairs in Cox Health in Springfield, Missouri. Thank you all. Finally, I would like to introduce Dr. R. Bowen Lofton, who is the Chancellor of the University of Missouri, and we have invited the Chancellor today to also bring welcome to you. So at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Lofton to the podium.
Let's breathe. M-I-Z. Now we all feel better. It's truly a great day at Mizzou. It's nice weather outside. Hope you had a moment to just look at the quad as you walked in here today and just say, wow, what a beautiful place this is. Most of you will be leaving, but some not. But you'll never forget, I hope, the time you spent here at this wonderful, extraordinary institution. I know that you've already thanked your spouses, some of the others, parents, relatives, and so on for their help. I know you thanked the faculty and leadership of the school, but I have a charge for you. Thanking them is important and should be done regularly, but also think about this. Someday, you will have the chance to do what they've done. Someday, you'll be a parent, a relative, a mentor, a professor. You will in some way, someday, have an opportunity to do for someone else what they've done for you. That's the best thank you of all. So I just ask you to give back. It may be a dozen years from now, but give back what you've received. That's the best way to say thank you, and the best way to continue the legacy that you've enjoyed here at this School of Medicine. Think about that. Finally, in your practice, you have a ways to go, I know that. Never forget what those banners say out there in the quad right now. Discovery is important. Never lose your curiosity. Never stop asking why. Do what you do as best you can. Excellence is the way everything should be approached, both in your professional life and your private life. Respect those around you. You'll be held in a very high level of regard by those around you because of you being an MD. That's proper. It's historic. But don't let that deter you from respecting everyone else who makes contributions as important, although different perhaps, than your own. And of course, responsibility is now on your shoulders. You'll be doing some things very soon now where you are where the buck stops. There won't always be somebody behind you taking responsibility. You've got to take it yourself. And since my arrival here, I've been adding a fifth core value to our list. That is integrity. Do what you do every day with integrity. Because once you've lost that, regaining it is virtually impossible. With that small bit of advice, I wish you the very best in your future endeavors. You've earned a great deal by your hard work here. You have more to do, but you've proven to yourselves and to us you can do it. Congratulations and best wishes for your future.
Thank you, Dr. Lofton. I would also like for you to meet the leaders in the Dean's office who are responsible for putting together all of the excellent educational programs and who will be assisting in today's ceremony as well. First, Dr. Linda Hedrick, who is the Helen May Speece Distinguished Faculty Scholar and Senior Associate Dean for Education. Dr. Rachel Brown, the Associate Dean for Student Programs. Dr. Kimberly Hoffman, Associate Dean for Learning Strategies. And Dr. Jack Gay, Associate Dean for Curricular Improvement. Given an opportunity to select a member of the class to address them on this day, the class of 2014's choice is John Cummins. John, please come and address the class.
I was promised there was water underneath the stage, so if you'll excuse me for just 1 second. There are a lot of you out there. Before I get started, I wanted to do one thank you. Mita, would you stand up for 1 sec? Mita Patel? I wanted to thank Mita because if it weren't for Mita, all of graduation week and all of graduation would not have happened. She was unflagging and tireless in putting this all together. She's done an amazing job, and we are all really lucky to have had her for the last year doing all of this and planning all of this. So I want to thank you and call you out a little bit. I apologize, probably a little embarrassing. But And now back to me. So I'm from a middle-class family in Chicago. 2 parents, 2 kids. None of us is a physician. I'm an educational outlier. The only other person who went beyond a bachelor's degree is my sister-in-law. She's a PhD in sociology. Strangely, the dean of the Naval Academy in Annapolis. Super weird. But much like the rest of my family, I'm a weird overthinker. And I married a man who's also a weird overthinker. So it worked out really well for me. But there's a lot of thinking goes on in my house. And when I was younger, I thought a lot too. I wanted to be a psychologist. Then I went to an elite liberal arts school, decided I wanted to be a social philosopher, which is crazy, but I decided I would do that. So I got a degree in sociology and gender studies, which, lots of money there. And then I went to graduate school for poetry, which was even more lucrative. Then I was adjunct faculty in English, which, whoa, rolling in the non-contract bucks there, for years at an art school, teaching English and rhetoric, and composition, and ethnography. So when I came to medical school, I came with all of this liberal arts critical thinking baggage, which is challenging because medical school moves fast. There's not as much time as you'd like to think about what's in front of you, to actually critically address what you're being taught. There's just enough time to not drown on the proverbial fire hose that's being opened up on you. Liberal arts education comes from medieval trivium and quadrivium, which loosely translated mean joy killer and mood destroyer, respectively. So all of this preface is just to say that I apologize for being a total pedantic Debbie Downer. Rest assured, I edited down as much as I humanly could, but if a little bit pedantic came through, I apologize. So let's talk about graduation. 4 years of medical schools are exhausting. Over these 4 years, we're vulcanized, irreversibly converted from science nerds with a desire to help others into doctors. And at the end, to mark this change, is a graduation ceremony. Like all ceremonies, it represents a passage, a change in status. In this ceremony, we're being set apart. The hooding and insignia of our education, the in unison oath as identification with and cleaving to the physician's professional ideals. But if we zoom out from this moment, look at doctors of medicine as a whole, we see this sort of setting apart everywhere, don't we? Many of us will wear a white coat as a physical boundary between us and our patients, sometimes demarcating us from our colleagues. Some people wear scrubs in public, a humongous faux pas, a douche move, as the kids would say. But one that marks us, pardon me, oh, that's delicious. One that marks us as very important professionals who just need to get to the end of this checkout line because surgery or baby delivery or whatever. Like, I've only done it once, but I had to pick up something important. It was like a prescription or Nutella or something. And we use the honorifics that our education bestows upon us, the MD, the doctor, and others use them too. And this morning I checked my Facebook, and I know who can get through a graduation speech now without referring to social media. Closest friend in the world is a nurse practitioner who is at least 8 times as smart as I am at medicine, who posted this on my Facebook page. Happy graduation to Dr. John Stephen Cummins. Bizarre. Freakish. It's the weirdest thing. I've been thinking less about, my future, which is good, because I'm supposed to be talking about the present, but more about these barriers, these kind of weird shields and suits of armor. Maybe you know this. So our American graduation regalia is based on Oxford's academic dress, and they're very hardcore about it. This ancient uniformed academic dress code applies for every examination, as well as a whole bunch of other events. Includes a gown, cap, a hood, specific undergown wear, subfusc, it's a fun word to say. There's this apocryphal story about a student who reviewed all of Oxford's statute and found in one of the ancient books that if he wore a full suit of armor to a test, he got a glass of sherry. Yeah, sherry isn't very tasty, but free alcohol. And the proctors, it said, obliged his demand for sherry, but fined him a shilling for omitting his sword. So I don't know how much a shilling is, but it's probably worth more than sherry. My white coat isn't a suit of armor, but it feels like it, and it feels like a barrier, and sometimes that feels problematic. In 1999, this is where I get a little pedantic, I apologize. Eric Marcus spoke to these barriers physicians use when he was discussing the importance of empathy in medicine. He said, sharing the feelings of ill people is difficult because it requires a semi-permeable barrier between our experience of ourselves on one hand as doctors and healthy persons and our experiences of ill people who are sick on the other. Too impermeable barrier threatens our ability to know what patients feel and to experience their common humanity. Too porous a barrier, however, threatens our experience of being well, of being different, of being able to help. It's a view I've heard most frequently when we discuss empathy in medicine. To be honest, it's really frustrating, because what's the value of being different, of being well? There's some obvious answers to this, right? I mean, if you over-identify, you'll burn out. You'll have emotional exhaustion at the end of every single patient encounter. Without any separation from your patients, doctors' decisions get colored more by emotional involvement than what might be best for the person in front of us. It's hard to come back to work in the morning if we're inexorably confronted by the unanswerable questions that mortality presents. It's a truism. Some degree of compartmentalization is necessary to do any job well, especially one as pivotal as medicine is. So kind of a downer story, one that unfortunately is not unique to me, and I'm in my class alone. Midway through my second year, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. He was having nosebleeds, which it turned out were hemoptysis. He was coughing up blood. They found a grapefruit-sized tumor in the top of his right lung, metastases throughout his brain and bones, and he died in December of last year. So, I promise, it gets better than this. Being a weird overthinker has its strengths, certainly, but it also has its failings, and it's not that hard to fall into a depression when bad things happen. And I did, and I fell hard. But if it weren't for the unflagging support of my husband, my mother, the rest of my family, my friends, my advisor, who's over there, my dogs, my psychiatrist, I wouldn't have been standing here. I wouldn't have made it through. And that gigantic stop sign, honestly, was a blessing. It reminded me of my own fallibility, my weaknesses, and as much pain as it's inflicted, I'm grateful for that lesson. I recognize other people's pain more readily now, more readily than I thought I ever would. And while I've always tried to empathize, now it feels deeper. Now I feel recognition. Physicians engage in what sociologist Arlie Hochschild termed emotional labor. Maybe you're familiar with it. You probably aren't. Don't feel bad. It's the expectation we feel and thus display certain emotional responses as part of the job. I mean, we're tested on our ability to seem compassionate as part of licensure, as part of graduation. And this is admirable. If someone's in pain, it deserves acknowledgement, compassion, and empathy. But too often, we neglect that same care for ourselves. We neglect our own humanity. We neglect our own human responses. And instead, we rely on the safety of a suit of white sailcloth armor instead of relying on kindness to ourselves, instead of accepting kindness from others. My point is this, and I do have one. These barriers are not inherently bad. Emotional labor is a necessary part of caring for people when they're that vulnerable. I mean, it's indisputable. Without some distance, our judgment becomes cloudy. Our decisions, potentially based on countertransference, unprocessed emotional reaction, instead of what's needed to fix the problem at hand. It's also indisputable these are artificial barriers. We aren't different. We aren't inherently well. Sometimes, maybe often, we're at least as broken as the patients in front of us. When we forget this, we forget our humanity. The old saw that doctors are the worst patients isn't just a funny bon mot. It's emblematic. Once we shoulder these suits of armor, it's easy for them to rust. It becomes hard to take them off, especially when we need to admit that we need help from others, especially when we're having trouble. So, congratulations. I should say that, shouldn't I? Congratulations. I'm really impressed, and I'm incredibly proud of us. And I have been so proud to be your class president for 4 years. I mean, this has been an honor. I don't know why you keep choosing me. Good for you, brave. I know every single person in front of me is going to be a phenomenal doctor, caring, knowledgeable, skillful. All I ask is you not forget that sometimes you'll be patients too. That as we traipse off to an intern year where our fallibility and lack of experience will be almost our definitive traits, to remember that vulnerability is part of being human. That as I've gotten to know each of you over the past 4 years, it's that humanity that I'm most proud of. Don't be afraid. Take care of yourselves. Thanks, and congratulations.
Thank you, John. It's my pleasure now to introduce our invited commencement speaker for today, who is Dr. Alexander Garza. Dr. Garza has a rich background that I'll outline in rather rapid fashion for you here. I can't touch all the details, but I think you'll understand the tremendous complexity of the knowledge that he brings to his chance to speak to you today. He's currently the Associate Dean and Professor in Epidemiology and Emergency Medicine at the St. Louis College of Public Health and Social Justice and the School of Medicine. Before coming to St. Louis last fall, Dr. Garza was appointed by President Obama and confirmed by the U.S. Senate as the Assistant Secretary for Health Affairs and as the Chief Medical Officer for the Department of Homeland Security. He served in that role for 4 years. While in that position, he was responsible for all aspects of health threats to national security, including weapons of mass destruction, biosurveillance, disaster response, and operational medicine. He was the principal health advisor to the Secretary of Homeland Security and the administrator of FEMA, and he routinely briefed the White House on health and security issues. Dr. Garza graduated from the University of Missouri-Kansas City with a BS in biology. He got his MPH degree from St. Louis University and then his MD degree from the University of Missouri here in Columbia in 1996. He has had a varied and rich career path that is centered on the delivery of emergency care, public health, and security. Some of the jobs he has held have included being a paramedic, a flight medic, an emergency physician, an Army officer in a combat theater, an EMS administrator at the municipal and state level. He has written and lectured nationally and internationally on issues involving health and security, and we are delighted to have him here as our commencement speaker today. Dr. Garza, please come and address the class.
Good afternoon, everybody. Chancellor Lofton, Dean Hall, administration, and faculty. You're right, these tassels are annoying. Distinguished guests, friends, loving families, but most of all, the University of Missouri School of Medicine, class of 2014. I am truly honored and humbled to be addressing you here today. So let me tell you a little bit of a story. When I first received an email asking if I would consider being the commencement speaker for the School of Medicine, I found myself transported back in time to a time when the White House called me while I was driving down the highway in DC, which is not an easy feat, asking if I would serve in the administration. And the same thought ran through my mind now as it did back then, and that was, are you sure you have the right Dr. Garza? Because honestly, I don't feel like I've done anything to deserve this honor or that one. However, figuring I had caught both of you in a moment of weakness, some caffeine-induced delirium, where you dialed the number below the one you really wanted to call, I followed my instincts, which have served me well, and I said yes and quickly hung up the phone before they could recover. And I heard a faint voice saying, "Oh, wait a minute," as I was reaching for the end button, but it was too late. So, young graduates, here are your first words of advice. The great French microbiologist, Dr. Louis Pasteur, said it best: chance favors the prepared mind. Always, always be prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that come your way, even if they come by mistake. Second piece of advice: never, ever, ever accept a commencement speech invitation. The reasons for this are clear. Do you know how hard it is to write a commencement speech? You have to be funny, engaging, interesting, inspiring, and memorable all at the same time. That's hard. Gary Trudeau, the author of Doonesbury, once said that commencement speeches were largely invented on the belief of outgoing students should never be released into the wild until they have been properly sedated. Well, if that is true, then here comes your dose of diazepam. For you lay people in the crowd, that's Valium. But for the rest of my time here at the podium, I want to impart some thoughts and experiences that I've had since I was the one sitting where you are in Jesse Hall on a fine spring morning in Columbia, Missouri, waiting for my name to be called. But I want to frame it around this thought, a thought of evolution, because the practice of medicine is constantly evolving, and so are people, and you will as well. An evolutionary biologist by the name of Dr. Van Valen, not Van Halen, in 1973 wrote a spectacular theory on evolution, and he called it the Red Queen's hypothesis. He derived the name from the Lewis Carroll story, Alice in Wonderland. In the story, Alice is running with the Red Queen, but no matter how fast she runs, she always ends up in the same place. And she protests to the Queen, who replies, "Now here, you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place." Now let me expand on that. I would speculate that almost every spring, a School of Medicine commencement speaker presents themselves to Jesse Hall and utters something like, "We are in an era of great change in medicine." Some of them were right, but most of them are wrong. But much has happened in health over the past 4 years. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act was passed on March 23rd, 2010, which means the class of 2014 was the first class to choose to go into medicine after these changes. And for one, I thank you. It is safe to say that the practice of medicine already has and will continue to change. The competition and the environmental pressures are too great for this not to occur. I won't go into the economics of it, but medicine must evolve, and so must physicians. Because the alternative to not evolving is not very pleasant. You'll have to constantly run just to keep up with the extraordinary pace of scientific discovery. Not long ago, it took millions and millions of US dollars, years of work by the most brilliant minds in the field to decode the human genome. Today, you can take a swab, you can scrape off a few cells in your cheek, put it in an envelope, send it to a lab, and get your genome decoded for a couple $100 in a couple of weeks. That is how far we have come. And that's just one example of how medicine is evolving. New drugs are being licensed every day, new surgical techniques are being developed. Some practices in medicine are being proved to be dogma, not science. And they are becoming extinct, as they should. So now it's up to you to continue running to bring the practice of medicine to the next era and to challenge the practices of the past. Just remember, though, as the former speaker just said, at the end of the day, the compassion and understanding, the human interaction with the person who is ill and injured is the most valuable drug and the most valuable procedure that you will ever use. And those will never become extinct. Just as medicine will evolve, you will evolve as well, both as a person and as a physician. I know that I have. So if I may, let me share with you some of my evolutionary moments. It was in 1997 that I joined the United States Army Reserves. I took the oath to support and defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And it was in 2003 when I was called to active duty with the 4th Infantry Division to serve in Operation Iraqi Freedom for a year. Although as a medical officer, per my modus operandi, I never did the conventional thing, and thus transferred out of a medical unit into an unconventional warfare unit called Civil Affairs. Now, those of you who are familiar with the military, the Civil Affairs is the hearts and minds strategy, or as we called ourselves, a relief organization with guns. I was stationed in the city of Tikrit, the ancestral home of Saddam Hussein, and assigned to rebuild the healthcare of Soledin province. The province is like a state here in the United States. I had the best job in the Army. I really did. I was allowed to travel around the country to talk and work with the Iraqis and to try and help them better their lives in the country. And I'll never forget how they helped me evolve as a person as well. I realized how ignorant I was of how the rest of the world lives and exists. How they are different, but not so much different than us. They want the same things, to live in peace, to raise their children. They have dreams, they have aspirations, just like all of you. One of the biggest lessons I learned in medicine while I was deployed was that those who are entrusted with the ability to heal transcend. They transcend geopolitical, language, and cultural barriers. This is true. I was sitting in the health director's office one day in Tikrit with my favorite Iraqi doctors as they explained to me what their newfound freedom meant to them. My dear, dear friend, Dr. Saad Al-Rawi, he turned and looked at me with a tear in his eye, and he says, "We do not see you as a soldier. We see you as one of us. You are a doctor." And that's what it means. Well, I was pretty speechless at the time. I didn't know what to say to them. I kept a small notebook in my pocket, which I used to take notes during the day, and I would write a situation report for my commander at the end of the day. And the only thing I could write in there was, "Today was a good day." And that was it. In addition to thoughts on chance, Louis Pasteur also wrote, "One does not ask of one who suffers, 'What is your country? And what is your religion?' One merely says, 'You suffer.' And that is enough for me." The ability to heal transcends, and you are part of this. You will see that people will turn to you because of your profession and your calling to serve your fellow human. Be worthy of that calling. It was in 2009 that I again took the oath, this time as the Assistant Secretary and Chief Medical Officer at the Department of Homeland Security. And in a way, being a combat veteran was good training for Washington, although the rules of engagement are really different. So in war, you're allowed to respond in force if you're attacked. In DC, not so much. You just got to sit there and take the round and move on. In war, you usually know when you're being attacked and who's attacking you. DC, not so much. But again, it taught me valuable lessons and helped me evolve as a person. The thing it taught me is to be nice, even when those around you are not. I've been around and worked with some of the most powerful people in the government, and I can tell you that being nice pays off all the time. You may not realize it till years later when you're getting another call from the White House, but it pays off. Besides that, it's the right thing to do, and it makes you feel better about yourself. So be nice. I'll never forget, I was writing back to my office from a meeting with the secretary and her high-level cabinet members, and I was complaining to one of my deputies about something or somebody who was causing me some problems. And he turned to me and he said, "Alex, you know, friends come and go. Enemies accumulate. Try not to accumulate enemies. Be nice. Plus, patients are not likely to sue nice doctors. Even the smartest doctor, if he's a jerk, is going to get sued. The nice guy can be incompetent, and he won't. So there's an economic point to this as well. Working inside the federal bureaucracy is both fascinating and frustrating all at the same time. And after a while, I finally understood what von Bismarck, the first chancellor of Germany, said nearly a century ago when he said, "Laws are like sausages. It is better not to see them being made." These are demanding jobs that require long hours and lots of travel, and so the other thing that it taught me was about priorities. I have 3 young boys who did not see their father as much as they would like, and a wife who at times felt like she was a single parent. And I didn't like the way that it was evolving, and so I left. So look around this auditorium at your parents, your grandparents, your children, your brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews. These are the people that have taught you. Yes, your children teach you too. That have raised you, that have cared for you, that have guided you, and in some instances have paid a lot of money for you. And they deserve special recognition for a job well done. Don't take them for granted. You will work long hours. You will have tremendous stress on your lives. But remember, what's truly important is those in your life that love you and that you love. So as I look among these bright and beautiful young faces of the next generation of physicians, I'm in awe and a little bit jealous of all the wonderful things you're going to do and learn in your careers. So my charge to you is just like Alice: run. Keep running. Run, really, really fast because you got to keep up. Evolve the science and the practice of medicine to benefit all of us. Allow yourselves to evolve as people as well. But remember when it's time to slow down, and at times when it's time to stop. I truly wish all of you wonderful success in medicine and in life. And thank you so much for listening to me. It is truly an honor. Godspeed.
Thank you, Dr. Garza. It is unusual for the School of Medicine to invite graduation speakers back for a second round of doing the commencement speech, but Dr. Garza was here several years ago. I think from the depth of the thoughts he shared this morning, you can understand why we were delighted to welcome him back this year. We now move to a very meaningful part of our event today, which is the administration of the oath to our class of 2014. In preparation for that, I would like to ask the class of 2014 to please stand. The general public undoubtedly first thinks of the Hippocratic Oath when they think about oaths that are delivered at medical school graduation, but there are several similar oaths that are often administered, and many feel that the wordings of these alternative oaths are preferable because they are more contemporary. At the University of Missouri School of Medicine, we ask each graduating class to select the oath that they would like to take, and for many, many years, our seniors have selected the Oath of Geneva. This oath is printed on the back of the commencement program, and we would invite you to follow along as we administer the oath. And because of the solemnity of this moment, I would also like to ask the audience and the platform party to please rise as we read the oath. As I administer the oath, I will ask the students to please repeat after me. At the time of being admitted as a member of the medical profession, I solemnly pledge to consecrate my life to the service of humanity. I will give to my teachers the respect and gratitude that is their due. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity. The health of my patients will be my first consideration. I will respect the secrets that are confided in me even after the patient has died. I will maintain by all means in my power the honor and the noble traditions of the medical profession. My colleagues will be my sisters and brothers. I will not permit considerations of age, disease, or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will not permit considerations of age, disease, or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factors to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life. I will not use my medical knowledge to violate human rights and civil liberties, even under threat. I will not use my medical knowledge to violate human rights and civil liberties, even under threat. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good afternoon. We're nearing the time when each graduate will be recognized. One by one, we'll invite the class of 2014 to the stage to receive the doctoral hood and the Doctor of Medicine diploma. Wearing a hood as part of the academic regalia signifies achievement of the doctoral degree. The color of the velvet on the outside of the hood represents the degree that the wearer has earned, in this case, green for medicine. The silk inside lining shows the colors of the school from which the wearer has received the degree. Members of the class of 2014 will receive hoods with a black and gold lining, matching the ones worn by members of the faculty on stage with us today who are proud alumni of this medical school. Each year, the graduating class honors members of the faculty by electing them as investiture marshals to assist with the donning of the doctoral hoods. And before we proceed, it is my privilege to introduce the investiture marshals for the class of 2014. Dr. Mark Beard, will you please stand? And you need to stay standing for a minute. Dr. Beard is Assistant Professor of Family Medicine. He is one of our proud University of Missouri School of Medicine alumni wearing a black and gold hood today. He completed his residency also here and has been a member of the faculty since 2009. Although he's been on the faculty for only 5 years, he's been recognized with many education awards, including election as resident to AOA, the Medical Honor Society, Curriculum Board Awards for excellence as a block director and for innovation in medical education, the Golden Apple Teaching Award twice, the Student Mentor Award, the Robert N. McCallum Student Advocacy Award, which he's won twice, the Leonard Toe Humanism in Medicine Award, and just yesterday, the Medical Student Affairs Council Clinical Faculty Excellence in Education Award. Congratulations, Dr. Beard. Dr. Michael McCullough. Dr. McCullough is a faculty member in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. He also received his MD and completed his residency at MU, but then he left for a little while. Fortunately, he saw the error of his ways and came back home to Missouri in 2006. His academic focus is in education, especially related to simulation. And he has multiple leadership roles in the medical school education program, including the patient-based learning, or PBL, block director, director of the program that teaches the gynecology exam to second-year medical students, and director of a simulation-based elective for fourth-year medical students designed to help them prepare for internship. Dr. McCullough's work has been recognized with awards that include Curriculum Board Award for Outstanding Course Director, Medical Student Affairs Council Preclinical Faculty Excellence in Education Award, and the Paul C.J. Sun, MD, Distinguished Faculty Award. And these last two were awarded to Dr. McCullough from the students just yesterday. Congratulations, Dr. McCullough. Dr. William Salzer. Dr. Salzer is professor of clinical medicine with a specialization in infectious disease. After training in internal medicine and infectious disease in North Carolina, Dr. Salzer joined MU as a faculty member in 1992. He's provided leadership in multiple capacities, including serving as one of the original PBL block directors in 1993 and every year since. He is the only faculty member to have that distinction. Dr. Salzer has a long list of awards for medical student teaching, including election to AOA as a faculty member, 2 Golden Apple Awards, the Students' Excellence in Education Award, the American Medical Student Association Service Award, the Paul C.J. Sun Dedicated Faculty Award, 2 Medical Student Affairs Council Distinguished Teaching Awards for Excellence in Education, 3 Medical Student Affairs Council Awards for Excellence in Preclinical Education, and 5 Medical Student Affairs Council Awards for Excellence in Clinical Education. Congratulations, Dr. Salzer. This is an important occasion and a joyous one. Please feel free to applaud as the graduates receive their hoods and their degrees. As members of the class of 2014 come forward, families, friends, and other well-wishers are encouraged to help make this moment a memorable one. All right, are we ready? Let's go. Dean Hall, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the faculty of the School of Medicine, it is my privilege to present to you the members of the class of 2014.
So good afternoon, everybody. In addition to the hood as elected by the class, you'll see some of our graduates have parents or spouses who are alumni of our School of Medicine or of our residency programs. And as that graduate goes through, you'll see their parents step forward or family member step forward to hood their graduate. So it is a real pleasure for me and an honor to be the person who reads the names of the graduates of the School of Medicine, University of Missouri, class of 2014. Our students, our graduates, and soon to be our colleagues. Let's start. Lydia Beck Alexander. Matthew Alexander. Roxanne Olsbury. Donica Liu Baker. Yuri Basuna. Zachary Berg. Anoop Bharani. Joe Ed Biggs. Angela Bolin Tomlins. Seth Brannell. Amelia Grace Granston Bray Aschenbrenner. Lindsay Breedlove Tate. John Brockland. Adam Brown. Alexa Castellano. Christopher Cates. Andrew Christensen. Veronica Conaway. Emily Corcoran. Stephanie Cowherd. William Austin Critchlow. Nicholas Crowley. John Stephen Cummins. David Ejigu Demisi. Teresa Zildone. Teresa Drollmeyer. Mariah Dreisinger. Jared Edwin Ebert. Craig Daniel Eck. Ashley Michelle Egan. Chase Richard Ellingsworth. Hannah Carol Enlow. Claire Elizabeth Finkel. Elizabeth Ann Frizzy. Joseph Garrity. Andrew Garetherin. Bridget Hartman. Joseph Hirschberg. Peter Hugh. Rayon Haider. Christopher Inabnit. Kimberly Ingersoll. Ashley Jenkins. Abby Jensen. Sarah Elizabeth Johnston. Rebecca Keller Tracy. Rav Kazai. Daniel Kirkpatrick. Shannon Kopsky. Landon Blair Kranz. John Kroom. Garrett Lambert. James Langworthy. Alison Lawnhart. Rachel Lavoie. Vanessa Lee. Robin Marie Lund. Lillian Lewin. Zachary Manning. Andrea Martin. Prachi Mayenkar. Stephen Ray McAfee. Joseph Munster. Christopher Nauser. Ben Nordhughes. Anand Ushwin Patel. Anik Patel. Meeta Patel. Erin Pearson. Andrew Pelican. J.P. Prouty. Christy Watowski. Jenna Marie Raymer. Michael Reiter. Shay Rigg. Matthew Roberts. Justin Ryder. Alex Sable-Smith. Sam Sander. Jessica Sanford. Martha Schisler. Andrea Schuster. Ina Schneider. Catherine Shoemaker. Luke Small. Cherie Strickland. Adam Stupi. Meryl Sunday. Jennifer Ann Titus Pirtle. Megan Vasile. Virgilio Alexander Vieda. Kevin Walker. Alison Zanaboni. And Alexander Zweig. Ladies and gentlemen, University of Missouri School of Medicine, class of 2014. Thank you.
Could I ask this class to please rise for a moment? With the authority vested by the Board of Curators, it is my privilege to now formally confer upon each graduating senior the degree Doctor of Medicine with all of the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations, class of 2014. Thank you. You may be seated. Yesterday, the School of Medicine held its annual Honors and Awards Convocation. Many of these graduates that you've seen here today were honored at that convocation, and I hope their families were present to enjoy the moment. Your program today includes a list of all yesterday's award winners, and I would invite you to review that. It is, however, our tradition to reserve for commencement some very special awards that I am now privileged to announce. First award is the School of Medicine Dean's Award for Outstanding Achievement in Academic and Clinical Proficiency. This award is given to the student with the best academic record throughout medical school, and the award this year goes to Dr. Ashley Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins. Our next award is the Holt Leadership Award, and this is provided by two of our School of Medicine alumni, Dr. Jean and Richard Holt. Since Dr. Holt is with us today, I'd like him to join me here at the podium, if we could, for presentation of this award. Dr. Jean Holt is a faculty member at the University of Texas in San Antonio. Dr. Richard Holt is Executive Vice President of the American Academy of Otolaryngology in Alexandria, Virginia. This award is presented to the graduating student who has the best exemplified the highest moral, ethical, and leadership traits and who has served as a peer role model. This individual has served in a leadership role in student organizations, provided service to the School of Medicine above and beyond the normal call. The award winner is chosen by Drs. Jean and Richard Holt from a list provided by the Faculty Awards and Scholarship Committee. And the award this year goes to Dr. Mariah Dreisinger. And the final award is the Student Leadership Award. This award is presented to a member of the graduating class who has been selected by a vote of his or her classmates on the following criteria: evidence of leadership qualities, peer acceptance as a potential leader in professional activities, a student who is a doer, one who characteristically assumes leadership in the formal day-to-day activities of the student community. And the award this year goes to Dr. Meeta Patel. Now, to close our graduation ceremony, I'm going to ask Dr. Maria Dreisinger to come one more time because she has been chosen by her class to give the closing comments today. Dr. Dreisinger.
I have to say that it's a lot harder to get up here after seeing everything that's happened today. I've been building up these nerves this entire time, so it's given me a little bit of a break. Fellow classmates, family and friends, and esteemed faculty, it is such an honor to stand in front of you today on this momentous occasion. Chase and John walked you down memory lane the past 4 years. Lots of things have happened. What a wild ride it has been. I think I have the best job because I get to talk about the future and the exciting things to come. But first, I want to take a minute and just let this soak in. We are doctors. Yep. I think it's a blessing and a curse that we're so driven in this field. Can you honestly think of a time when you stopped and really took the time to appreciate things and weren't looking to the next step? Because I honestly can't. I think in high school, we were probably in every single club, on every sports team, trying to get the best ACT or SAT score so that we could go to college at a good place. In college, we were thinking about getting into medical school. We probably shadowed every doctor we knew, and we tried to get the best scores we could on that MCAT. Got into med school, and at least at Mizzou, the first thing you heard about was step 1. So we were preparing from that from the beginning, and until we overcame that, we weren't thinking about residency, but now, today, we're thinking about intern year in our apartments that we have to move into. We haven't taken time to think of anything else. We especially haven't stopped and thought, hey, I just did something that thousands of people all over the world would love to do and may never get the chance to do. Maybe even more importantly, I just did something the 18-year-old me never thought I could possibly do. But we've done it. And my job today is to help you think about those things, reflect on these things, and be excited about the future. If you were in one of my PBL groups in the first and second year, you might have had the awesome opportunity of getting one of my pump-up speeches. Some of you may remember. I often did it the last Friday of the block, right before we went home for that study, the last weekend of studying before that terrible exam week. For those of you who, you all probably know, but we took an entire week of exams every single block. And so we were pretty stressed out. And I usually use the same format, although they were impromptu, and some better than others. I would talk about all the people, like I just did, all the people who would have loved to be in our position, even if they had to go and take a week of exams. And then I'd reflect on, what if I hadn't gotten into med school? I mean, that would be way worse than taking a week of exams, totally way worse. And then finally, I would talk about the difference we were going to make. Because, let's be honest, first and second year, we were so far removed from seeing real patients that it was kind of hard to remember why we were doing what we were doing. Well, I have a little secret for you. Those presentations, those pump-up speeches were as much for me as they were for you guys. because I needed as much positivity to get me through those exams weeks as I could. Well, here we stand again today, on the brink of an equally scary but exciting time. Okay, so this is a little scarier because we actually are going to be touching real people now. It's not a standardized patient. So this is perhaps the most important pump-up speech I've done in my life. I better not screw this up. Some of you may not know this, you probably do, but I've played sports my whole life, so I feel confident about my pump-up speech ability because I've received several pump-up speeches in my day. Most of them terrible, but I do think that there are a few pearls I've taken with me that I will share with you today that I apply to my day-to-day life, and I hope you'll apply in the next year and moving forward in your careers. The first of these is to forget your last shot. This was for me when I was young because every time I was playing a game and I missed a shot or I made a mistake on the basketball court, I would literally shut down, like lose it. I was sad, I was embarrassed, I was mad at myself, I'd beat myself up, and I couldn't play. You know, everybody watching the game could tell that I was out of the game because I had made a mistake. So one day, after a game, my uncle pulled me aside, he was like a coach to me, and he said, "Mariah, you have got to learn how to forget that last shot." He wasn't just talking about the last shot I took, he was talking about the mistakes I make and the way I handle them. He was telling me to put my head in neutral, to accept that I'd made a mistake, but to move forward and play better afterwards. I think this is an important thing to think about as we head into our intern year and into the field of medicine. I should first give you the caveat that there's no room for negligence in medicine, where obviously the big mistakes shouldn't happen, we're trained well for that, but there are going to be little mistakes, and I think sometimes we forget that we're human. And so the important thing to remember is it's not that you made the mistake, it's how you fix it and how you go forward, and you need to forget your last shot. Another thought or pearl that I took home with me was to act like you've been there before. This one really pumps me up when my coach would tell me that. This was reserved for the times when we were going to play a team much better than us on paper, probably had a better facility, better equipment, maybe they were much larger Amazon women compared to us. Regardless, we would walk in the court and we would just get overwhelmed by our environment and the way we perceived the environment around us. And that would affect the way we play our game. So our coach would pull us aside and he would say, "You know, the rim, it's the same height as the one in our gym. The lines are the same distance from the basket. The court's the same size. We practice on this court at our home every single day. This is where you play every day. You've done this a million times." I feel like when we walk into the new hospital on the first day of intern year, it's going to feel like that feeling. You're going to look around, you're going to see this huge new place, brilliant people around you, and you're going to perceive that there are expectations on you that you're not going to be able to fulfill. I think we are experts at reading the literature, understanding the evidence base, knowing how to find answers, and I think even more importantly, knowing when to ask for help when we need it. Don't forget those skills when you walk into the door that first day of intern year. Act like you've been there before. And probably the most important pearl of wisdom that I have to share with you is not forgetting where you came from. This was reserved for me and my teammates when we were getting a little bit big for our britches. Perhaps we'd won a few games in a row and we were feeling a little confident and making some confident mistakes. And he would say, "Don't forget where you came from." And this served as a reminder to reflect on those things we've overcome, the struggles we've been through, the losses we've had, and the stress that we had overcome to get to where we were. You are graduates of the University of Missouri School of Medicine. The skills you carry forward with you were honed here in this institution by these faculty and others. You will be amazing physicians as a result of the training you've received. You know those key characteristics we've heard of a million times. We now embody them. Be proud of what you've endured to make it to where you are, and don't forget what events have shaped the physician you're going to be. And I'm going to say something that we've all said, it's kind of a theme today, but the other thing is not to forget the people who have helped you to become the physician you're going to be. Those are the people in this room today. They're the people who have listened to you cry and listened to you stress. They're the people who have forgiven you when you didn't show up for that bar mitzvah or event and when you forgot to call them on their birthday. Those are the people so it's not just important to remember where you came from, but also the people who helped carry you as far as they have. I'll leave you with a final thought. I had the awesome opportunity last summer to talk to the M1s about at the white coat ceremony about my experiences in medical school. The OME asked me to take some time and think about tips I had for them for survival through med school, which I have to say is one of the hardest tasks. I don't know how you ever prepare anybody with one speech for medical school. but I did my best. And I have to say the one thing, when I was just reflecting on my years here, that kept coming to mind was how incredibly inspired I am by my classmates, by you guys. Truly, you guys are amazing. You inspire me every single day. And so when I stood up there in front of those M1s with their bright eyes and excitement, I told them to look around themselves because they're surrounded by some of the best friends that they'll ever make in their life. We go through several friends as we move from milestone to milestone in our lives. I think we as a group have shared some of the biggest milestones together. Marriages and children, things to celebrate. Illness and death, things to be mournful of. But regardless, we have pulled together, we've supported each other, and we've gotten through these good and bad times. And I feel very confident that you will move forward as amazing physicians because of these things. We are a family. So I'm going to end like I ended every PBL pump-up speech by saying we're going to make a difference. And I'm really, really honest about that now because we actually are going to have our own patients when we walk out the door today. We're going to do great things, and it's going to start today. So are you pumped? Because I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariah. So I'm so pleased that all of you are able to be part of our celebration today. It has indeed been a great event. I hope I have a chance to visit with many of you after the ceremony. And for one last time, we want to extend our best wishes to the class of 2014.